If you have your volume up, you might want to turn it down. My neighbors are really loud. Right now I'm lifting some of these dark lines. To be honest, this is there's not really anybody in here, so I'll just go ahead and talk through it for the sake of the archive. Sometimes when I do self-portraits, I get really bored, most of the time actually, because I'd rather not look at my face the whole time. Insert ugly face joke or whatever. And I think because of that, I'll get a little bit complacent with some of the line work. So, not always the best example, but I'm going to go in and just lift a little bit of this, soften up the edges here because it's a really well lit photo. I think mainly because I started the live, I didn't schedule it 24 hours ahead of time, and it's Friday evening. It's going to be a pretty low attendance thing, so may as well just talk. If people don't want to hear it, you can kick rocks. This one, this happens a lot of the time when I have plans beyond just drawing. I was going to use this for a business card, but I don't really like how it's turned out. So at this point, I'm just kind of finishing this drawing for the sake of the viewer, because I tend to not want to abandon my drawings once I start them. But just got back from some travel, and usually when I get out of my routine with drawing every day like that, I have to shake off the dust a little bit. So, but speaking of that, let's look at, this is the drawing I was doing before I left, which is Robin Williams, and that one I finished today. It really should have finished it 2 weeks ago, but it seems like, you know, traveling, holiday time, anytime my pencil touches the page, someone asks me a question, which is fine, but it's one of those things where it took a lot longer than I liked. But this is sort of an older Robin Williams photo, him being older, not the photo itself. So that's what I finished and started this. And really, I think the lesson that I learned that maybe somebody can get something out of is that for drawing something like this isn't a bad size, but for the intention of what I'm using it for, it was a little bit too large. Ultimately, I should have sized my reference photo. Here, I'll flip back a few pages. So, I've got quite a few where they're a little bit more of a floating head and not falling off the edges of the page. I should have sized my reference photo more like this, the Ethan Hawke, Lee Raybon photo that I did, or drawing that I did. Because I wanted it edge to edge so I could actually put the whole thing on the business card. But it's also one of the pitfalls of drawing anyone with a hat, which I do often because I draw so many Western things, but he's actually wearing the same hat that I wear on a regular basis. It's a open road Stetson. But because the hat takes up so much real estate, you inherently lose quite a bit of the page to the hat rather than the size of the face. I kind of prefer to draw where the faces fill up the page a little bit more. And so typically, I don't know, it's kind of one of those things where if you're drawing for fun, you got to choose a reference photo that's going to be fun for you to look at and, you know, try to emulate. This one, I'm going to finish it, like I said, mainly for anyone who wants to watch, but I think I'm going to redraw this for the sake of the overall purpose. So I just wanted to make some business cards that have a portrait. I thought the most appropriate portrait to draw would be my own, since it's my business card. We got a little background noise. I wear headphones when I draw, so y'all can't hear what I'm hearing, but if anyone's ever interested, I do have playlists that I make for these drawings. Sometimes they reflect directly on the drawing that I'm doing, so I can kind of, dive into what I'm listening to or what I'm drawing. Like, for example, I've drawn quite a few musicians, so Hendrix or Willie Nelson or people along those lines. I tend to listen to their music while I draw. Sometimes it's all over the place. It's not even the music of the people I'm drawing. But if there's ever any interest in that, I've got those playlists that I could post in my descriptions. Right now I'm listening to the Broody Brothers. And a really great band. I think most people know them for a song that went viral, but the first song that I really latched onto of theirs was called Alluring Eyes. It's a good song. I might just finish this one with more of a sketchy touch. When I do that, there's only a few elements that end up being like more photoreal. I don't do it often with my drawings, but sometimes I'll do that just to sort of wrap up something that I'm not feeling passionate about. And just like sort of a variation of the style that I usually draw in. And we'll see. If more people hop in, then maybe I'll start a new portrait. As per usual, I'll ask people if they have good suggestions. So far, I've only had one good suggestion from chat. So I can't really guarantee that I'll draw what people throw out, but it kind of has to overlap with my interests a little bit. For now, anyway. At some point, I'll do drawings of people that are commenting or people that are subscribing, things like that. But for now, I'm just going to draw what I'm interested in because this is really me just loaning out a little time for y'all to see what I do. With the first long run of these drawings that I did, I think I did 35 days in a row of daily drawing. It was kind of a balance of talking and silent drawings, just depending on how I felt that day. And I couldn't really tell whether people preferred talking or just drawing. I've talked about this a lot before, but we have such a noisy building, I can't really guarantee an ASMR video because our neighbors are just incredibly loud, like shockingly, comically loud. And so a lot of the time I have to talk over them or mute the audio or just go with the flow of them being that loud. But I'm always happy to answer art questions if there's like other questions that I can actually answer for you. I'm happy to take a swing at those too, so long as people are being nice. The traveling that we were doing, we actually just got back from Texas. My home, where I originally hail from. I gotta say, I prefer it there. Give me just one sec. when we were traveling on that trip that I mentioned, we were visiting some family. I've honestly, not since like February or I don't know, I guess some of my recent travel I've had some pretty quiet nights in terms of being able to sleep. You forget how quiet it is when you're not in a city like where we live. I guess in Italy it was really quiet, but in the mornings it would get noisy pretty quick. I know that's not super relatable for a lot of people, but hyper aware of that. It's traveling like that's been more of a new development for my family. But compared to like San Francisco city noise in the building that we live in, or the building we used to live in, I forgot what it felt like to fall asleep and have like familial noise instead of like a neighbor poorly attempting to learn Goo Goo Dolls songs and Oasis songs above me at 4 a.m. Or people that's like talking voices like a low grade yell. But yeah, you really have to like live in headphones or just kind of learn to tune it out when you live in a building like where we live. Which is why I don't do ASMR videos. I would never be able to control the audio. I'm sure before I'm finished with this live stream, our downstairs neighbor will start doing dishes, which sound like a car crash. None of it's really a complaint, it's just kind of a commentary on the state of things. But yeah, I'm pretty ready to get out of this place. Never thought I'd want to move back to Texas so much. But here we are. This is bugging me. The crust of my hat is not accurate. It needs to be a little bit more of a cattleman's crease. It's hard to see at this angle, but it does have a little bit more of a point to these here. So I haven't been wearing my hat since I didn't take it on the last trip. Not exactly sure how it happened, but I went to this little theater show with a relative recently, and I got back and it looked like somebody sneezed on the underside of my hat. It's not great news for a Stetson, but that's what I get for wearing it to the mission. Here's the thing with hats, not necessarily for drawing, but just in life with hats. I have a few, I mean, I'm bald, so I have a lot of hats, but I've got a couple Stetsons, and right now the two main ones that I wear are an Open Road Triple X Deluxe. Has a little bit more flex to it, so in the wind it's not as rigid. It's a little lighter than your standard Open Road. It's kind of a classic hat. A lot of presidents wore them. A lot of country singers wore them. Now, like a lot of guys that buy brand new crisp jean jackets and like decorative Tecovas boots wear them, unfortunately. But there's a certain line that you cross with these hats because it's traditionally a dress hat, especially if you get the silver belly color, which is the original color. But there's a line you cross once you sweat through it a few times and it picks up a few stains. Once you can't fully clean it again, it becomes sort of your kick-around hat. So I feel like if the inevitable move does happen in a timely fashion, aside from getting a new pair of Lucchese's, I'll have to get the original Open Road again. Have a dress hat and let this one be the kick around hat. Can't keep them pristine forever, but you gotta try. Well, some of them anyway, if that's the whole point. I also have a Stratoliner, which needs to be like deep cleaned. It's funky. I've worn that through a few Texas summers and a few tours. Worn it on some really long walks out here. That one is so well fitted to my head that there's not a gust of wind that could take it off. But that's more of like a traditional fedora, which most people think of fedora as like a short brim hat, like a Tommy Bahama hat or something, but it's not. It's more like what Indiana Jones wore. It's a slightly shorter crown than what he had. And in true Stetson style, it's got a thinner ribbon, so it doesn't have the inch long or the inch tall ribbon. I don't know if it's every bald guy that's from where I'm from or if it's just me, but I tend to have a lot of knowledge about hats. I can tell you all kinds of stuff about the Stetsons. It's one of those things, like growing up, seeing these all the time, you start to get curious about them, or I did anyway. But yeah, Stetsons in general, the Western hat was sort of created on accident. John B. Stetson actually had tuberculosis, or consumption is what they called it back then. And he was told to move to a drier climate. And so he moved out west from the East Coast. And he was caught in a massive downpour and needed a wide brim hat to keep, like something to keep all the rain and everything off of him. And he had a bunch of flat felts that were going to be turned into more traditional dress hats. And he took a flat felt that hadn't been shaped yet and tied it around his head with a really tight band. And it formed sort of the first shape of like what people think of a Western cowboy hat. And then that one had more of like a stovepipe top on it, so it didn't have a cattleman's crease. And the cattleman's crease, where they're divoted here and in the middle, you can't really see it in this photo because this is actually looking up at me a little bit, but the cattleman's crease is from them taking it off and pinching it with a gloved hand. So it was not the original style, but it became sort of like a Wrangler style. And now it's more of the traditional cowboy hat. But then you also have like the riflemen, things like that. More of like what they wore in the Civil War. Where it doesn't have the divots. It'd be rounded on the top and slightly pointed in the center. But I'll be honest, looking at any hat this way for the sake of a drawing, they're not great for drawing. And just like when somebody has a lot of hair, the hats are usually my least favorite part to draw. But as it is with most of my drawings, I think the main anchor of them is the nose and the eyes. And so sometimes I won't go as in full detail on some of the other elements just because I want to draw the viewer's attention more to the gaze of the subject, like looking into their eye. And then depending on where the subject's looking in the photo, no matter where you move your head, it looks like they're looking at you. Which, when I was younger, I used to love, I mean, I love movies now. I still love this movie, but it's a funny movie, Shanghai Nights. It's actually an Owen Wilson joke, which I think was ad-libbed. He says, the ubiquitous gazer. That's where I learned that term. And then learned that that's actually an art term. It's when a photo or a painting looks like it's looking at you no matter where you're standing. And so when you're getting a subject that's looking directly into the camera, a lot of the times you'll get that. It'll look like their eyes are following you a little bit. It's usually a sign that you did it right. At this angle, it looks like I'm wearing a 10-gallon from the height of the crown. It's not, though. It's just looking up at it to add a little bit more shape to it. Kind of ran out of steam to talk about stuff for a little bit. Sort of zone out. Listening to Andy Schaaf right now. If you're a music fan, it's worth checking out. He's a Canadian artist, Andy Schaaf, Schaaf, however you say it. It's one of my top 10 all-time favorites. Like I was saying earlier, it's not my favorite thing to draw self-portraits. I kind of do them every once in a while to check in, to see if I'm still drawing the same every time I draw myself, which is about on par. I usually lose interest about halfway through the portrait. Maybe it's a sign that I'm not self-obsessed. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to redraw this one for the purpose of what I was using it for. I said this earlier, but I was going to put it on a business card for portraits. And ultimately, I just don't really like how it's turned out. I need to draw it a little bit smaller. Sort of at that phase of the drawing where I just really want to get it done. So I'm going to stick around until I finish this one tonight. I do have like a pretty big beard, so anytime I draw it, I have to remember there's about 8 different layers of what I do. Initial, directional, texture, and some edges with detailed work, like the stuff that shows all the random hairs, sort of like the uneven parts, the calic that I have over here. And then the longer it gets in the front, there's some wavier pieces. It's just kind of a process that I have to just stick with because it takes a while. And right now I'm listening to Labi Sifre, Bless the Telephone. It's a cool song. You might know it if you hear it. It's been in a lot of stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to finish up my beard for the most part. I need to go in and add some heavier contrast to give it a little bit more shape and depth. And then I have to get the texture and the sort of wily hairs here in the front. Then I'll start adding more of the details and the depth in my face. And I'm going to move kind of quick, so see if I can get this done here in a little bit. I've been on for about 50 minutes. 5-0. So I've been going live again on a daily basis. The first time I did a 35-day stretch every single day for 35 days in a row. I liked it. I've seen some improvement in some of my art. You can see the days where I was tired as well. I like this sort of commitment and routine. I am back at my old day job, so these are definitely going to be evening streams. So if people want to stick around and watch me draw at night, I will be doing this every day for a while. I won't put a timeline on it, but my goal is to just draw every day, no matter what. And on the days that I'm tired or lazy or kind of fried, it helps me to have a little bit of accountability to keep drawing, especially since I tend to draw little bits here and there and I don't film it. So I'm trying to get better about filming those little things. If anybody's watching, if you stick around for a little bit, I'll show you some of the smaller ones that I've been working on as well. Kind of got sidetracked when I got this A5 from Paper Republic. So like a really exciting thing for me. I've loved that company for a long time, and I'm an ambassador for them now. I've always wanted one of these like mid-size A5 portfolios, and they were kind enough to give me one. But yeah, I was drawing in an A4, which is quite a bit bigger, a few inches each direction, so the portraits take longer. But more importantly, they allow for more detail because they're larger. So I need to balance back out and kind of do a little bit of both. And then, of course, I have my pocket Grand Voyager, which is smaller than this, and that's kind of my daily carry. Like if I leave the house or I go walking around or I go to work or anything, that's always in my back pocket. But I was thinking maybe I can break up some of these days where I have certain days that I draw in a specific size. Kind of change it up a little bit instead of just doing one portrait over and over for days. We'll have to see. If you're ever drawing with a Pentel graph gear, or really any mechanical pencil that has the sleeve here for the nib, you have to keep a long nib on it when you're drawing on paper that's this grit, because it'll gouge the page pretty hard, which I've done before, and then you can't really get away from it. You can actually see a page gouge right there. Sort of looks like I have a cool scar there. I don't, but I do have a scar right here. Kind of got lost when I was shading. That's a fun story if anyone ever cares to hear about it. And song just changed. Now I'm listening to Same Girl by Randy Newman, another favorite of mine. The song and the writer. If you don't know who Randy Newman is, go listen to him. And if you do know who he is, nice. Yes, he is the guy that made the Toy Story song, but many, many, many other great songs. So what I'm doing here, there's actually my mustache curls down, so it's darker towards the bottom half because of that. Same with the top half because it's shaded by being under my nose here. So you kind of have to do it in layers, but my goal here is to kind of get a little bit more shape and depth in my facial here. It is kind of chaos. I mean, I've got a big beard, so there's little elements and tricks you can do to make facial hair look real. But it takes a lot of time. Main thing is that most hair doesn't go the exact same direction, so you have little kind of flyaways like this. The playlist that I'm listening to, it's all over the place. Right now I'm listening to Midnight Generation, Don't Wait Up. Compared to the last song that was on, it's wild. How long have I been drawing? Do you mean tonight or in life? I can answer both. Tonight I've been drawing for about an hour. This will be my third day drawing on this self-portrait. In life I've been drawing since I was a kid, but seriously drawing for the last 3.5 years. So like 3, sometimes 4 hours or more every day. Thanks for the question. Your name reminded me of something. This person's name is Cal Moo Mo. So I went to high school in West Texas, and one of our ag teachers always told us if you see cattle, you call them cattle, because a cow is only a mom. It'd be like, he said it would be like going into a restaurant and seeing people and saying, wow, look at all those moms. Don't know why, but that stuck with me. I don't know if that person's still around, but yeah, to reiterate, I've been drawing seriously several hours a day for the last 3.5 years. But I've always doodled. I used to do animation, and if I could, would I? Oh, a cow? Yeah, I'm not a vegan or anything. I'm a meat eater. From Texas, so I think it's kind of built in. I'm going to take these rough edges and the flyaways up this side now to kind of even them out. I realize some of this is boring, but thanks for watching if you are. I would be doing this if you weren't watching anyway, so this little ancillary bonus. Okay, there we go. Gave you that whole story about cattle and cows, and that's all I got back. Utterly shocking. Get it? Got a lot of cattle jokes. I don't want to milk it too much. Was that person trying to start beef with that question? It's like really high stakes. Not a lot of pun appreciators out there, huh? Well, do I have a reference or just a mirror to see my face? I actually have a photo of myself like a foot away on an iPad. I will start printing my references and filming these horizontal so people can see them over here, but in the meantime, I mainly just show what I'm drawing. But also sitting where I'm sitting, I wouldn't be able to wear my hat unless I wanted to get it creased up. So I've got a phone stand in front of me and a cabinet to my right. So and then I also just see myself all the time, so kind of used to drawing. I've drawn myself quite a few times, but I was saying earlier, I check in every once in a while and do an updated self-portrait. Thank you. I can't really take too much credit for it, it just kind of grew in that way. Over the pandemic, I got it down like it was over a foot long, but because I just saw it every day, I didn't really realize how much bigger it was than usual. We were FaceTiming with a family member, and she was shocked at how big my beard was. It's kind of funny. But this is sort of like medium size right now. Also looking at this, I'm realizing how much I need to trim it up. I guess I could have done that for the sake of the drawing, but it's alright. Looking more for accuracy to the photo here. Getting there, almost done with the beard. And just doing a little bit of contrast, some contour in there. Trying not to dig too hard into it because I don't want to have to even out the dark lines or use an eraser in here. I also want to leave a little bit of negative space here and there because there is a little bit of white peeking through in my beard. So. I don't have the voice, but I do have the mustache for a Sam Elliott. It's kind of my goal is to always have like a solid Sam Elliott mustache. I guess according to the Bradley Cooper version of A Star is Born or whatever that movie is. You get testosterone shots and voice will lower. Maybe I should look into that. Do like a young Sam Elliott thing. I don't have the hair though. He's always had good hair. Sorry if y'all can hear the dog barking. We have neighbors who leave their dog locked up while they go out, and it just barks nonstop. It's hard to tell how loud it is on the video until I watch him back. Sometimes it's louder than others. And then what's happening now, I do have to dig a bit more into this. You get a little bit of graphite dust. And it tends to make the tip of the pencil slip a little bit, like it doesn't get enough traction to really dig in. So you have to be careful there because you can get gouges from the lead itself instead of just the metal touching it. So it's kind of at that phase of the drawing where I need to wrap up any shading and just get some texture in there. Right, a little bit more on the beard and then be done with that part. It is going to come off the page a little bit. That's all right. I've said this before, but I had an art teacher in high school, Miss Pierce, that used to tell me sometimes the most interesting parts of a painting or a drawing are what's falling off the page. I think she had more of a grand idea of what that would be and not necessarily the tip of my beard or the edge of my hat, but I don't know. I always wonder what happened to Miss Pierce. If she's still around or not. She's a great art teacher. Which is kind of funny to think about. I sucked at art in high school. It was terrible. I was always frustrated with how everyone around me was much better. But I think it was just a lack of dedication. Had too many things going on. And say now this is like in my top 3 things that I focus on all the time. That's good enough. It's been a pretty sparse night for viewers, but that's okay. I think it's also boring to watch me draw someone that you don't know, you know. It's obviously familiar to me. And Friday, I bet everyone's out on the town. Not really an out on the town guy myself, more of a stay home and draw, watch a movie kind of guy. Speaking of movies, I just watched The Roses earlier, and Jesus, love everyone in that, but I could have done without that movie. It looks like there's a couple people jumping in and out. I had some exciting news today, but it feels kind of funny to just mostly say it to myself here because I already know. I guess for the sake of the archive, I'll say it, but and the few people that are in here, or well, spoke too soon. Got word today that I am an official ambassador for Blackwing Pencil, which is cool, because if you've watched any of these before, you know that I use them on every drawing. So it is like an affiliate thing, so I've got like the links and all that stuff, and I do make a profit from it, but has to be people watching and buying for it to actually make a profit. Really, I'm just kind of psyched that the company liked my stuff enough that they wanted me to be an ambassador. Which is cool, because I have like two genuine favorite brands in terms of art supplies and like daily carry and use like that, and now I'm officially affiliated with both of them. So the one I just mentioned would be Blackwing. It's who makes these pencils that I use with the square eraser. This is the Frank Lloyd Wright series. It's been one of my favorite ones. It's the same as the extra firm natural Blackwings. These are by far like my all-time favorite pencil. I think if anyone's watched any of my other lives, you've heard me gripe, namely that I can't get the pencil extender, because I just have like a graveyard of half-length pencils that are too short for my hands, because my hands are too big to use them. And I actually heard a couple days ago that they got one into one of my local stores, so I'm going to go grab one of the extenders, and then I can use all the many Blackwing half-lengths that I have been just kind of holding on to, because I have many. But yeah, that was cool news. It was really exciting. And then the other company that I'm an ambassador for is Paper Republic. So it's the leather journals and like this pen that's over here. And the paper that I'm actually drawing in is a Paper Republic book. But two of my favorite companies of all time in terms of just making something that I'm happy to spend on and support. And they've both brought me on as someone to represent their brand. So it's really exciting. But there's links for all the stuff. You can get Blackwing pencils from all the links in my bio and the description of my videos, and the same with these. Anything Paper Republic in a bundle, you can actually get 30% off. So if you're looking for like gifts or to treat yourself, there's links in all the usual places on all my videos and profiles and all that. But yeah, it's really like an actual honor. I don't have to be performative at all, because I love both of the brands. And now I'm working with them, so it's kind of cool. It's also a testament to like time spent, you know. Spend all my time when I'm not with my family or working drawing. And although I don't have a huge following, I have a lot of art, and it's all made with very specific tools. I am also one of those people that believes like you can draw with anything, but if you draw with something you like using, you're more likely to draw. Or like photography, same thing. I have a camera that I love, like ergonomically, like how it feels in hand, also the images that it creates. And so I use it a lot. I think it does have an effect on whether the quality rises or not. Soften this a little bit. Yeah. See, I haven't mentioned the song I'm listening to in a minute. So I'm listening to Joe, Mortal Projections. It's one of my favorite songs of his. Joe is DJO. It's the dude from Stranger Things for people that don't follow his music. I think he plays Steve or somebody. Never really got super into that show. And like I mentioned before, if people are interested in what I'm listening to while I draw, I can put those playlists in the description of the video or somewhere. But just so I don't get flagged and lose my video, I listen to headphones while I draw. And typically, if you're on here watching me and I'm not talking, it's because I have a movie or a show on. Which is sort of funny. With music, I will listen to people that I'm drawing, if they're a musician. Not exclusively, but it'll be peppered into the playlist. But when it comes to like paintings or drawings, a lot of the time, if it's not a musician I'm listening to, or if I'm not talking, I'm watching stuff that has nothing to do with what I'm drawing. Just sort of a way of busying my mind while I'm doing something that I can zone out in. Right now I'm listening to Alec Olson. So Someday I'll Get It. It's a great song. Eventually I will have people that I live stream with, and I'll draw them while they play music. I had that lined up with my friend Dylan LeBlanc, but he was in Norway at the time and we couldn't line up our schedules. So at some point I will either live stream in a room with him where he's playing while I draw, and then we'll talk a bit, or we will live stream from remote locations and talk and play some music and draw. And change it up a little bit for some people. Ideally, once I get a bigger space, I'm going to stream with a few cameras, and then I can have people come into a studio setting where I draw while they play. Right now I'm listening to Julia Jacklin. I believe she's Australian. Really great. Great voice, good writer, great musician. Love the production of this album. Let's see, an hour and 21 minutes. just want to texture my eyes a little bit because they were very glassy in this photo. Listening to Andy Schaaf right now. Early to the Party is the name of the song. So I usually don't get this far into a drawing and then redo the eyes, but they're bugging me. They're really glassy in the photo, and I kind of want to reflect that a little bit here. Really need to get my pocket knife so I can get a better edge on my eraser here. Actually, just remembered, I've got one right here. So I won't show it on here because I don't want to have to move my book or cut on the page, but I'm going to slice this eraser to get a nice fine edge on it. Kind of have to sacrifice a little bit of your eraser, which I don't love, but it's a nice way to get sort of negative space in a small area. Forgot that I had left that there. Okay. Now we go in with the flat edge. I'll rub some of the graphite off of it. So if someone doesn't have really dark eye color, you don't want to have hard edges around the reflections in the eye because it will look more like a drawing and less like a photo. I have pretty green eyes. Pretty green eyes. Oh. I meant to just say I have like fairly green eyes. And like I said, I'll keep announcing songs just for the hell of it. Right now, I'm listening to Freddie King, Going Down, which most people know as the theme song from Eastbound and Down. But it's actually just a great, great song. And like I said, this playlist is all over the place. And then there's a little tip for drawing eyes. I have pretty heavy eyelids, and they cast a really dark shadow, like a drop shadow. And so it depends on the eye, but most people right in here, it's going to be relatively dark across the top of the eye as well. And then I personally have, so if you're not reading the comment or if you don't know what I'm drawing. It's a self-portrait. I personally have pretty long eyelashes. Again, there with the pretty. Ooh. I guess they're pretty, but so this is not just the base of the eyelashes meeting the eyelid, but it's actually part of the drop shadow that my eyelid will cast over my actual eye. And it's helpful to use. I've got a 0.3 Pentel right now for those, so you don't have to sharpen too much to get that fine edge. I've got some hang down here. And then always when you're drawing faces in this style, or when I'm drawing faces, I'll say it that way because there's no rules. I do tight groupings of circles for texture, for shadow. And then no eye is truly white. There's always a bit of darkness to them. And see the difference that makes. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit. There's a little bit of an anomaly there. Alright, and then on to the next eye. Get my pretty eyelashes. Oh, pretty. So not just the shape of where they meet, but also where you see them come up over the dark line. And then this reflection's a little too big, so it's got kind of a zombie eye vibe going on. And then I guess I'll throw this out there. I don't think anyone's watching right now, which is a-okay. But if people do have questions, or if you have requests, if you want to learn how to draw something, throw it in the comments, because I'm happy to answer stuff. Eventually I will have multiple cameras here, so I can talk directly at you, to you, however you want to phrase that. This pupil's a little too small. There we go. For the time being, I've just got the one camera set up. I mean, I do have multiple cameras. It's just such a pain to do a live stream like that. But I've had quite a few people mention Bob Ross to me. And so I might do a little bit of like a Bob Ross live stream at some point. And if you go back in my short videos far enough, you'll find me dressed as Bob Ross for Halloween. And also the palette / canvas that I painted as a prop to carry around. It was kind of funny, almost only exclusively older people knew who I was dressed as. So maybe that's my demo, that's my demographic, is my age and up, which is fine. Because they're the responsible ones, as we used to say when I was in a band, which meant you got the dough, you got money. Not that any of this is really about that, but I'm not opposed to someone buying the art, or buying me a cup of coffee, or maybe buying some art supplies. Buying something. But yeah, if people want like a modern Bob Ross, maybe a slightly vulgar Bob Ross, I could definitely accommodate. I try not to say anything too harsh, because I know that sometimes kids do watch this stuff, even though I have it set where it's not for that age group. But as I found out on recent trip to visit some family, my younger nephew watches these, so now I gotta not talk like a pirate. So I have to really embody Bob Ross. No cursing. Man, I'm tired of looking at my face. Okay, let's do some faster work. This is a 0.5 Pentel Graph Gear 1000. We're gonna get into the shading of the hat because I'm so ready to be done with this. So right now it looks like I'm doing straight lines, but what I'm actually doing is tight ovals, which there is a little bit of a straight line element to it, but it's, if you slow it down, it's like, you know. I really like those sound effects. So, noted, Fridays are no good for live streaming, but I still am going to draw every day. So, might have to vary in time, because today I went on earlier than I have been recently. But we're getting up there. Usually I've been going on around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but I went on at 5 today. Let's get this all the way across the underside of the brim. And really it is a silver belly. There's not really any detail or anything. It's just sort of color and texture here. But since we are drawing in graphite, there's no color. Just the color commentary that I offer. Usually I can tell by how distracted or uninterested I am by accidentally sliding into vertical lines as I shade, which I just did a little bit. But if I'm being honest, I don't want to draw on this anymore because I'm not going to use it for the original purpose that I had set out to create this self-portrait. So I just want to finish it for the sake of the videos. And then on to the next. If you do have suggestions, you can drop them in the comments of any of my videos and I will check them. Can't guarantee I'll take them because I like to draw stuff that overlaps with my interests, but maybe we like some of the same things. So feel free to comment. If you have art questions, I'm happy to answer the ones that fall into my scope and expertise. If you have questions about life, I may not be suited to answer them, but I will give it a shot. If you need like advice, you could probably do that. I had a guy tell me once, the best people to get advice from are people that have failed a lot. I've failed a lot, so maybe I fall into that category. But who knows? Maybe he was just trying to make himself feel better. And then, in the spirit of announcing songs that I'm listening to on headphones right now, I'm listening to my favorite song. It's Jonathan Wilson, Trafalgar Square. If you ever just want to feel cool, put this song on. Kind of falls into the category of like Dr. Dog the Ark, like just cool tough guy stuff. Artsy tough guy. I'll say it again, just That's Jonathan Wilson, Trafalgar Square. Oh, there's a new comment. You're surprised no one has commented except me. Yeah, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes people just don't talk. I'll ask questions, I'll throw out topics, I'll talk about all kinds of stuff, and I just don't get much feedback. I kind of think most people are idly scrolling through and watching as they're also watching TV or something, like second screening. But it is also an inadvisable night for this hour of a live stream, especially in my time zone. But these are really about sort of just sharing like the time I spend drawing, so it just kind of has to happen at the time that works for me most. Which right now is the time that I'm on. I'm surprised you're still watching. Okay, now I'm going to go in here and do some broad shading. Sometimes it looks and feels like I'm doing nothing here, but what I'm actually doing is just kind of balancing out some of the strokes. At this point, I've shaded so much that there's a lot of graphite dust, and so it feels a little silky. Probably because of the time, but there's a few regulars who used to be in here all the time, and I haven't seen them in a while. I will say though, the chat usually just evolves as I'm on. If there's more than one person talking, they start talking about stuff that's not related to what I'm talking about, which I get is kind of part of it. But I don't know, I don't mind. Pleased to say, looking at this drawing, that I have fewer wrinkles than I thought I did, especially compared to some of the other portraits I've done lately. That's nice. So I think also largely because I don't have any emotion in my face. I have kind of a Jabba laugh. Not a lot of smiling, which is more so just a reflection of being stoic, not being unhappy. Well, I think since I took my face that much darker, I probably need to hit the hat again. See, you said you think I have low views because people have low attention spans. Yeah, I mean, some nights it's really high. It's, I think just some nights it's not, you know. If you look back on some of the other ones that I have, there's 3,500 views, 2,500, around there. It was kind of there for a while when I was doing like a longer streak. But it has a lot to do with time of day, how early I upload the live, you know, because if I just go live, there's hardly anybody in, which is sort of what I did today. But honestly, I kind of don't care. You know, like I said earlier, I'm drawing like this whether I'm live or not, you know. It's just sort of what noise is on in the background is kind of what differentiates, because if I weren't live right now, I'd just have a movie on in the background. But there's definitely a crowd of people who like to see drawing. I think that crowd is sort of like a Venn diagram of people who want to hear ASMR drawing, which I don't really offer because there's so much noise in our building and city. And people who want to learn drawing. And then the smaller group who want to hear someone talk while they draw. But some nights, you know, you don't get a big crowd, but I always imagine it as like people in the room with me, and I have a really small office. So if 2 people were in here with me, it'd be crowded. Would literally be a crowd, 3 people. So on the nights when I have had really high viewer counts, I'm always really thankful for it, but it doesn't stop me from doing a long stream on a night with a low count. You know, and I'm also, there's quite a few people that have they've told me that when they can't see me draw live, they go back and watch them on the archive. So I'm mindful of them as well. I don't archive the chat because I time-lapse these drawings, and so it would ruin the ability to do that. That's just also why I read the chat out loud when I'm responding to it. And because I don't want to actually type in there on a second screen, because I'm more focused on the art. What kind of, let's see, you said, what kind of style of drawing do you do? Just realism? I do mostly photorealism. I'd say this one is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, in my opinion, this is a 2 compared to my normal quality. It's kind of a testament of me just not wanting to look at my face and draw. I do a lot of photorealism for portraits. I do urban sketch, watercolor sketch, and a little bit of acrylic and oil painting on a larger scale. But talk about boring. To watch me do details on that stuff, you were literally watching paint dry. It's so boring that I quit doing it regularly. But I never really videoed that because it was just kind of mind-numbing. But I do have like a large, real-looking, like not photo-real, but sort of in a Norman Rockwell style portrait of me and my family in like a retro future, mid-century modern living room. But right now my main focus is just like photorealism portraits, exclusively in pencil. Just I prefer, for the last year or so, I was working on scribble method with ballpoint, which I still do every once in a while. If you go back in some of my old videos, you can see that. There's also just like somewhat photoreal ballpoint drawings with Bic multicolor. And that's more in this style and less in a scribble style. It's a little bit of like applying layers slowly, like you know, more and more at a time. Kind of similar to how I would paint, just layer after layer. But I always gravitate back to photoreal pencil portraits. They're more fun to me. It's probably because I used to be a photographer, like professionally when I was working in music. I did a lot of portrait photography, and it's just sort of a comfort zone for me. Let's see, I'm missing comments. You said you mostly do anime and editorial cartooning, sometimes realism. Nice. Yeah, I like editorial stuff. Not cartoons for myself, like for my style. I like when people do that. My brother actually does a good amount of that stuff. I really like he's got a great sense of humor, and like there's a simplicity to his drawing that I'm kind of envious of because I can't leave my drawings alone like he does. He draws simple line stuff and is really effective and gets across a lot of information, but I struggle to do that. I've been working on, it's in the back of this book, I've been working on stuff where it's a little bit of writing and drawing, like short stories and things along those lines to sort of expand, because I feel like I've gotten to the point now when, especially with the live streams, love doing these. I love documenting the process, but ultimately I want to keep pushing for a new style. And so my goal is to get to a point where I can kind of tell more of a story. And I used to travel for a living, and I would journal every day, and I'd meet people and write down all the stories they told me, and was pretty dedicated. So I have a lot of stories to draw from. I think while a lot of my, like, the people I traveled with bands, they were kind of chasing the fun times and band life and all that, and I was sort of having conversations and meeting cool people. And so I just remember a lot of those stories and wrote a lot of them down, and I kind of want to do sort of an editorial, like short form, like multi-story, I hate the term zine, but something like that to start out with. And then eventually, if there's one that I really enjoy doing, I kind of want to test the waters a bit, and I'll do an actual novel and do like minor illustrations. I'm a really big fan of old Western and old sci-fi, and so I might do a little bit of that. I've written quite a few Western things that I've never really shown people, so I might illustrate those and have a little bit of photorealism for the close-ups, and then more of like an editorial style for like tableaus and vignettes. Is my mechanical pencil 2B or something darker? This is just an HB. So I tend to just stick with the HB realm. Let's see, I think I can. This is my, well, I say that. I've got one for my 9 that I don't have out right now. That's a B. My 0.3 that I've done a lot of this is HB. So that would be this Pentel graph gear, the little tiny one. That's HB. But most of the stuff, like this 0.5 is an HB as well. And then I'd have to look at the graphite scale. I'm not exactly sure. I should know this now, especially since I'm working with them. But Blackwing, these pencils, this is a Blackwing 71. It's an extra firm. That's the one that I tend to draw with the most. This one, I'm not really exactly sure where it falls on that. I should look up the chart and see. But that so far is my favorite to sketch with, especially for the broad sketch aspect of the portraits. But I like HB. I like stacking on layers, and I don't really want it to be too contrasted. I kind of want to have it almost like washed out. Oh, what's up, Asatron? Another a regular coming back. Yeah, this is a photo from 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, or based on that. Yeah, as much as I don't want to say this, it is actually a fairly accurate portrait. Big hat, big beard. Oh yeah, Bossytron's an old school. I say old school. You've been watching my videos for as long as I've been going live, so. This is sort of the nice part of shading, especially with this 0.5. It's pretty silky with all the graphite dust on here. And there's a little bit of hand oil from rubbing the dust off earlier, so it's getting like a nice pebbling for texture on the hat, which is another thing that you can do if you have paper that's this grit. It's 150 GM or GSM. It's the grit of the paper and the weight of the paper. If you rub your hand across it without the glove, you get like a harder pebbling, like leather. Oh yeah, here we go. You guys are talking amongst yourselves. Love it. But yeah, with a drawing glove on, you get a slightly smaller pebbling. So it's kind of a nice little trick, especially if you're trying to get texture for like a felted hat or anything like that. I think the angle of this photo kind of threw off what my hat actually looks like because it's accurate to it. But I think I chose to sit when I should have been standing. There's like a slight crook to it that I don't love, but whatever. Can I use the drawing glove for digital art? I don't know, because although I have an iPad, I don't really draw on it. I don't think that it would work. Like, I'm pretty sure, actually, here, I'll check. Oh well, I guess you can, because I can't pause my playlist with it. So this is just like a Hoyon, I think. If you can see that brand. It's just like a cheap one from Amazon. I got it a while ago because I kept smudging drawings. Before I sort of gave up on the idea of drawing on both pages. I just draw right-handed now, so that way I can cut these out and there's not a drawing on the back, if that makes sense. Like if I give someone a drawing, I don't want them to have a drawing on the back of it, so I don't draw on the left-hand side of an open page. But I rest on these a lot and it saves me a lot of hassle. But yeah, it doesn't seem like I can actually touch the buttons, so. I can a little bit, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't really draw on my iPad. I've tried it, I've got the pencil and all the stuff for it, but I'm more of a tactile kind of guy. I like a notebook that I can close and not worry about breaking glass on. Oh, nice. Gotta love it when somebody saves a cat. Alright, I'm gonna call this one done, which makes me a little sad because Bossatron, you just got in here. But I will be back on tomorrow night, probably a little later. It'll be closer to like 7 or 8. Because I mentioned this earlier, but I'm back in my day job. I draw every day. I took a little time off for some travel recently. Twice I did 2 trips and I didn't draw as often. I drew every day, but I didn't stream it. But now that I'm back home, I'll be live streaming every night. So pretty much like I try to, like when I get off here, I'm gonna take a photo to post so I can go ahead and schedule the live stream. I think 8 o'clock is probably when I'll start them. Sometimes I'll do an hour, sometimes it'll be 3 hours. It just depends on what's going on in life. But no, especially since I'm back at my day job, I'm gonna move it to just strictly like evening or nighttime drawing. Nice. Good to see you, Bossatron. I answered your questions in 0 seconds. Oh, yeah. It's easier to do when there's only 2 people commenting. But, especially because I'm towards the end of this drawing, I'm pretty much done with it. It's a little easier to talk now because I'm not having to concentrate as much. I feel like I should hit the hat again, but I'm gonna just tell myself it's good. So yeah, I'm gonna call this one done. So going back over all the stuff I talked about earlier for the archive and for the folks that are still watching, now I'm officially affiliated with Blackwing, so there's links in the descriptions of the video on like all of my social, so you can get all the same stuff that I use. This one, I think they're sold out of the Frank Lloyd Wright series, which has like the color banding on it and the different color erasers, which I've got a couple of these left. I'm almost tempted to just hang on to them because I really love these pencils. But so there's another one. And then this is like the standard one that I use. It's the same, extra firm. It's a natural, so it's the same as these. It just doesn't have the same color eraser, and it doesn't have the color banding for the Frank Lloyd Wright specific series. I think I've got a couple. Yeah. So this is another one of the Frank Lloyd Wright ones. If you don't know who he is, he was a famous architect. Not far from where I live, there's actually a really incredible civic center that he designed, and it's like everything mid-century modern, pretty stunning. I've been there before, and it was cool to just walk around in. But that's the Frank Lloyd Wright series. These are all extra firms. I prefer to draw with those because they just have had the best results, most consistent results. I do also have some of the other ones. I've got like the black series. This is a soft one. And they're okay for sketching. I've used these a little bit more when drawing animals, when I have like a looser scribble style. I should try and do a little comparison just to see, like maybe I can do like 2 things on one page. But I also have some of the original 602s, which I originally thought these Frank Lloyd Wright series were 602s, but let's see. So yeah, Blackwing, I've got all the links for those if you're interested in these. It's a historic brand. Like a lot of famous writers and artists and musicians have used these. Fun, like little thing from a movie. If you ever watch Jaws, Richard Dreyfuss actually has one in his mouth when he turns around in like a famous scene and looks right at the camera. Let's see. Yes, do I use the pencil on the side of the drawing or the sketchbook? You mean this one? So this is a ballpoint pen, and this is what I write with all the time. This is actually a Paper Republic pen. It's the Listilo, or Listilo, and it's a needle point. So it's like a really small, see if you can see that. They say it's a 0.7, but it feels more like a 0.5 because it's so small. You can't really use the side of it. You have to be directly down on the paper. I use this to do like daily writing notes, journaling, stuff like that. It's about a 5-inch grip. Really, like it feels more like a 4.5 or a 5. Yeah, I like it because it's, for one, it's got flat edges on it, so it's good for grip. It doesn't slip out of my hand or slide while I'm writing. And it's an Oto refill in here, so it's a ballpoint pen, like a really tiny, fine refill. They send it out with a gel refill, and I don't draw with gel. It's just too definitive. It's for the same reason I quit drawing with fountain pens. I'd rather have a little bit of a sketch element to it. I can show you back here. Yeah, so these are like some little basic, like I do scribble style as well, so I'll kind of loosely draw things out. This one's not totally finished, but I just said it was done pretty much. I could keep going on that, but that's done with this one. And then there's also like on the back side of this, I can show you. like some of the Western stuff that I've done, also scribble style, but that's all done with this ballpoint pen. And it's made by this company, Paper Republic. So they're, you can see it right here. It says Paper Republic. That's a company that I'm a huge fan of, but I'm also an affiliate or an ambassador for them. And they're just like one of my favorite brands in general. They make these leather notebooks. Do I use cross-hatching? Sometimes. If I'm drawing architectural, I do. I find that for architectural drawings, I prefer to draw in shade and cross-hatching. I don't think I have any examples readily available, but I can, let's see. I've got some architectural notebooks that I can pull out for tomorrow's live stream and go through some of those. But yeah, this is the A5. If anyone's been watching long enough to actually see this thing from when it was new, it's got a little bit more beaten up and a little more wear on it, you know. But yeah, there she is. And then, I can't remember if I showed this before or not, but I've got the debossing here, my initials, and then got the one on the back. But yeah, it's looking good. This is same color. This is my pocket, my daily carry, and this is after 3.5 years of carrying it. And then I can show you like some of these. I was talking about these earlier. My wife has convinced me to watch Housewives with her, and so this is Jen Shaw, which is kind of funny. I have not wanted to watch it for years, and now I'm addicted, so. But yeah, just like little stuff. That's Rodney Mullen, if anyone's a skateboard fan. I can show you kind of like in general other smaller things I'm working on. Let's see. So I can move these out of the way. So this is a gift for one of our family friends. It's someone who was talking about how he was obsessed with like how fast they built the Empire State Building. He's a metal worker. So this is like 10% finished. I need to go in and actually add all the details, and like I'll probably put in another 4 or 5 hours on that before it's done. And then this is unfinished. This is someone that we met when we were traveling. This is Sam and Callie. These people were really nice, and they saw that I gave someone a drawing, and then we started talking, and I offered to do some for them. So these are just kind of like little things that I'm tentatively have done. This is another family friend, Fabio, and then another close family friend, Francesca, and her mom, Marianella, and then that's Francesca's dad. And yeah, and back to Jen Shaw. But these are sort of the small ones. I have a lot of drawings that I'm constantly working on, so anytime if I get bored with one, I'll just flip over to another one and kind of go from there. But yeah, I think I'll have to put these back in here later. But yeah, and then this is my sort of daily carry. This is what most people see me with if I'm ever out in the world talking to people or showing art. It's kind of a range of things. I've shown it before, but I'll go through it again real quick. It's like an unfinished cardinal. Actually, the black in this is done with that Blackwing soft one that I was showing earlier. There's David Lynch, Tom Segura, Jake Ricker, who's a famous, sort of famous, I guess, I don't know, locally famous Bay Area photographer. Greg Williams, great photographer. Rodney Mullen, Godney, the creator of all modern skateboarding. So Willie Nelson, Harry Dean Stanton, Peter McKinnon, which is sort of like a love-hate thing. I like a lot of his stuff, but then I dislike a lot of it as well. So it's funny that he's in here. So Sierra Farrell, Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd, Ari Matty, Scroobius Pip, he's a British rapper and podcaster and actor, Michael Fassbender, Gary Oldman. Let's see, Brad Pitt is Cliff Booth. I've drawn him a couple times as that character. It's Jack Kerouac. We're here in the Bay Area, so he's kind of a local legend, Dean Cassidy, his friend, if you've ever read On the Road. It's in there. This is Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who started City Light Books. Ansel Adams, who's one of my favorite photographers. Here's James Baldwin, another great writer. Kendrick Lamar, a little modern thrown in there. There's a poorly done Anthony Bourdain. For some reason, I just can't get his nose right, a lot of them. There's John Barenthal, Bob Dylan, Jim Marshall, who actually took the photo of Bob Dylan. It's another Bay Area guy. It's Joaquin Phoenix as Doc Sportello from Inherent Vice. It's like my favorite movie. What's his name? Jeremy Allen White from The Bear. Yes, Chef. Bill Murray. It's an unfinished Sinatra that I sort of stopped messing with, got bored. It's an unfinished Val Kilmer. Eventually I'll go back and finish these. There's Jeff Bridges. That's like a 10-minute sketch with not this exact pencil, but with an extra firm, same kind of Blackwing pencil. So a lot of the time I'll do like a fast sketch with those because it's easy to move quick with them, especially the extra firm. They stay sharp for a while. It's my wife's grandfather. It's James Dean. I started drawing where I'd clip my references over here, and so it ended up making me flip my book over so I could draw right-handed, and I decided not to because now there's Bukowski on the back of my wife's grandfather, so kind of funny. Whoever gets this original is going to be scared if they look back there. Here's Johnny Depp from the Minamata set, not in costume, just short-haired and bearded. Here's Nick Frost, which I drew a bigger version of. Simon Pegg. This is it Patrick Troughton? I can't remember which Doctor Who this is. He was the first, or no, the second one. I'm trying to think who that would be. William Hartnell, John Pertwee, Patrick, I think that's him. Christopher Hitchens, I've drawn him a couple times. And then there's Sitting Bull, I think. Pretty sure it was a Lakota. I'd have to look it up, but anyway. Yeah. And then I'll put these back in here later so you don't have to watch me struggle with clipping them into my pages. But yeah, and then I have all my like loose drawings that I also carry around. And then those are mostly done with mechanical pencils when it's smaller details like that. But just to kind of show you. So this is my, like I said, my daily carry Paper Republic. That's the pocket-sized Grand Voyager with my Parker Jotter on there. I've drawn a lot with this as well. It's kind of a classic, like 1950s, 1960s ballpoint. And then I have my A5 portfolio, which is just kind of a larger version of this with sewn-in pockets. And then, see if I can pull this out without knocking a bunch of stuff over. Then I have my A4, which fills up this entire scene here. All three the same color, just three different ages. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of my whole collection of drawing books right now. Daily carry, this is a somewhat daily carry, and then this one stays at home unless I'm showcasing art somewhere. But anyway, we're over 2 hours now, so I'm gonna go have dinner and hang out with family and stuff. But thanks for watching. I'll be back on probably about 8 p.m. tomorrow. So thanks for sticking around. If you like any of the stuff you see, there's links to my pencils and journals everywhere. So, all right, see you next time.